Today marks 22 days of this latest federal government shutdown with no end in sight. Yesterday, the U.S. Senate voted against a bill that would have funded the government at current levels through late November. Both of our senators representing Connecticut, Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal, voted no to that bill. Democrats are standing firm and calling on Republicans to extend health insurance subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. But Republicans say they won't open the discussion on health care until the government reopens. Joining me now, live from Washington, D.C., is Senator Richard Blumenthal. Senator, good morning. Good to see you. Why the no vote yesterday, and what's the path to ending the shutdown?
There is a relatively easy path to ending the shutdown. What we need is some presidential leadership that will bring the House of Representatives back to town. You know, they've been on this unpaid, or rather paid, vacation out of town and out of touch. If they come back and simply negotiate with us an extension of the health care tax credits, the government will not only be reopened, but people will be able to afford health care insurance. And let's be really clear about what's happening in the real world here. On the ground in Connecticut, open enrollment has started as of October 15th. It extends through December 7th. Everyday people in Connecticut, literally hundreds of thousands of families, are making decisions about whether they can afford health insurance because premiums are skyrocketing. The reason they're skyrocketing is that insurance companies don't know and consumers can't know whether there will be these tax credits that make the insurance affordable. So people in Connecticut are going to be paying double and triple the current premiums, and a lot of them can't afford it. So they're going to go without health insurance. And that kind of policy is cruel. It is stupid because it's better to prevent illness than to treat it when it becomes more serious. And so we're going to stand firm. We're united as Democrats because we want to make sure that health care is provided to people of Connecticut and all around the country.
I know you want to get the conversation health insurance rolling, but the reality of this is that there are everyday Americans who are feeling the real life impacts of this gridlock in Connecticut. There are about 7,300 civilian federal workers plus thousands of military members, many of whom aren't getting a paycheck right now. You served in the military. You know that kind of sacrifice. They're not getting paid to no fault of their own. What's your message to these workers this morning?
You're going to be paid. Members of the military, essential workers who protect public safety and our national defense, you will be paid. There has been a transfer of funds that enables the current paycheck to be made, and we have legislation that will enable payment of our military and other similarly essential workers, people who guarantee our public safety. But there's no question, your point is very well taken. Real people are going to suffer pain, particularly the food benefits, the supplemental nutrition assistance payments, SNAP, WIC, those kinds of programs will run out at the end of the month. So there's an urgency here. Absolutely right. We feel it. And there is nothing I'd like more than for our Republican colleagues in the House of Representatives, you know, we call each other friends down here all the time, my friends in the House of Representatives, to come back to work so we can negotiate a path forward.
Yeah, you brought up food stamps. At the end of the month, as you mentioned, 42 million Americans might not get those benefits. Here in Connecticut, that's 1 in 10 people, and it's not cheap. I know we have a reserve fund in Connecticut. It costs $72 million to fund that program if the federal government doesn't supply those funds. So you said it adds a level of urgency, but does that mean both sides are going to compromise? I mean, at what point will you come together?
Compromise is not a four-letter word. You know, I have accomplished legislation here in the United States Senate, and I brought lawsuits that were settled when I was Attorney General for 20 years in Connecticut by reaching across the divides, healing divisions, and compromise is exactly what we need. There is a path forward. Republicans need to tell us what they require to extend the healthcare tax credits, which are urgent. I can't say it enough times. Urgent for people in Connecticut making decisions right now. And by the way, 3/4 of all the people who depend on these healthcare tax credits live in red states, 3/4 of them in red states that Donald Trump won. So my Republican colleagues are really hurting their own constituents as much as they are hurting people in Connecticut. There is an easy path forward. President Trump is about to leave for Asia at the end of the week. He seems more preoccupied with building a new ballroom at the White House than coming to Capitol Hill and persuading his party members who control the House, they control the Senate, and they control the White House as well as the Supreme Court. So we're in the minority as Democrats, but we are going to stand firm in favor of health care because, as the old saying goes, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I hear every day from families. I heard from a family of 4 making $130,000. Their premium is going to go from $500 a month to about $1,200 a month. They simply can't afford it and still put food on the table, pay the rent, afford medicine, and they are going to be forced to forego health insurance. Nobody should be put in that position.
Last government shutdown in 2018 lasted 35 days. Will this one go past it, you think?
I hope not. We're working hard. I'm here literally every day during the week. I go home on the weekends and I hear from my constituents. What they're telling me is be tough, be strong, hang in there, because we need health care.
After all this is over, should there be a bill passed to prevent future government shutdowns, regardless of which party's in power? Would you vote for something like that?
I would, making it more difficult, at least, for there to be shutdowns, enabling some kind of temporary payment. We passed a law during the last session that provided for payment of federal workers, not during the shutdown, but after it's over. I think there are ways to relieve some of the pain of a potential shutdown or prevent it entirely. But the real measure to prevent shutdowns is to do appropriation bills, permanent appropriation bills, because remember that the reason for this shutdown is the government runs out of money, and the controversy is over a continuing resolution, as it's called, which is a temporary stopgap measure. I think these temporary stopgap measures are bad government. We ought to do full year appropriations and get the job done.
Okay, well, we hope compromise is on the horizon. Senator Richard Blumenthal, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. We'll be following this closely, and thank you very much again.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this.